True story. The story I am about to share shows how financial service businesses lose good customers because of poor onboarding experiences. Not because the customer was dishonest, not because the customer was too risky, but because the onboarding process was handled badly. This is a real case shared for educational purposes. A reliable business owner with years of professional experience applied for a funded bank account with an own EMI. The business was over 1 year old. The owner clearly has strong experience, owns other good businesses, and had a proven track record. The business operated more than one business model under the same legal entity, which is perfectly normal when the activities are legal, disclosed, and properly explained. Because the business was still young, the owner was careful not to drain it of liquidity. He understood that in the first 2 years of operation, liquidity is critical. He also knew that access to credit can be limited for newly established companies. So instead of taking money out of the business, he kept liquidity inside the company to support existing operations and future opportunities. Then the business came across a very profitable opportunity. The owner approached the bank account provider and asked whether they could support the activity. He provided documents, proof of the opportunity, and evidence showing the size and potential of the business. As part of the normal onboarding process, the underwriting team requested source of funds and source of wealth information from the UBO. So far, this is completely normal. But then something strange happened. The underwriting analyst reviewing the case seemed unable to understand why the business owner had not taken more money out of the company. From the correspondence with the bank, it appeared that the analyst did not believe the customer. The customer was effectively asked, "How is it that you are making such a low income?" Now, let's break this down. First, not everyone needs the same amount of personal income to live. People have different personal circumstances, different commitments, and different lifestyles. Second, how can an underwriting analyst decide, just by looking at a tax return, whether the amount the owner took from the business was too low or too high? Third, how is that directly relevant to the business application? And how is it related to the source of funds, source of wealth review? A compliance analyst is not a tax advisor. A risk analyst is not necessarily an accountant. An onboarding analyst is not qualified to decide whether a business owner's drawings, dividends, salary, or personal income strategy makes commercial or tax sense. That is not their role. Their role is to assess risk, understand the business, identify red flags, ask relevant questions, and decide whether the financial institution can support the customer within its risk appetite. Unfortunately, this type of onboarding behavior is very common. We regularly see analysts and underwriters making judgment calls on topics they are not qualified to assess. We have seen underwriters make decisions based on their personal opinion of a business opportunity without properly understanding the sector, the business model, or the commercial context. In some cases, the risk assessment becomes less about actual risk and more about whether the analyst personally understands or likes the business. And that is a serious problem. So, why am I sharing this? Because if you are a financial service business owner and you allow your risk and compliance team to make commercial decisions instead of acting as part of a structured decision making process, you will lose good customers, your reputation will suffer, and genuine businesses will avoid working with you. If you are an underwriting manager, you need to understand that your team is often the first real operational interaction between your company and the customer. The quality of that interaction matters, the tone matters, the questions matter, the way your team challenges information matters. If your team is making decisions based on topics they do not properly understand, they are not protecting the business. They may actually be damaging it. And if you are an underwriter or onboarding analyst, remember this: your role is not to judge the customer based on your personal view of the commercial world. Your role is to understand the facts, assess the risk, ask relevant questions, and escalate where specialist knowledge is required. Because when good customers feel misunderstood, judged, or unfairly challenged, they do not just abandon the application, they remember the experience, they tell others, and they rarely come back. So let me ask you this: have you ever had a similar onboarding experience with a financial service provider? And did that experience affect your decision to continue with them or choose someone else?